If you still have your mail-in ballot, fill it out now and don't wait. Hand deliver your vote ballot at a secure drop box or at the County Board of Elections. Remember to secure your voted ballot in the secrecy envelope. You got to do that. And then in the mailing envelope, fill out the declaration and then deliver it yourself. That gives you the peace of mind that your ballot is in on time and that your vote will be counted.
That was Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf urging his state's voters to hand deliver their mail ballots with just 1 week left until Election Day. Last week, the Supreme Court deadlocked 4-4, leaving intact a 3-day extension for Pennsylvania mail ballots as long as they are received no more than 3 days after Election Day. Now that Amy Coney Barrett has been sworn in as the 9th Supreme Court Justice, Pennsylvania's Republican Party is again urging the court to block that extension. One county there has already filed papers arguing Justice Barrett should recuse herself from the case. Now, this all comes as the Supreme Court declined to extend the absentee ballot deadline in Wisconsin. In his concurring opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh argued in favor of allowing states to maintain firm deadlines on absentee ballots, writing states, quote, want to avoid the chaos and suspicions of impropriety that can ensue if thousands of absentee ballots flow in after Election Day and potentially flip the results of an election. Now, those suspicions are being promoted by President Trump. Less than half an hour after the decision, he tweeted, must have final total on November 3rd, even though many states do not certify results until weeks later. Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro joins me now to talk about this and more. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you again. First, I want to get your reaction to last night's ruling on Wisconsin absentee ballots. Do you see a potential drawn-out legal fight brewing like we saw with Bush v. Gore in Florida back in 2000?
Well, those are really two separate questions. I hope that we do not have a long, drawn-out battle. I think and I hope that this election will be decisive at the ballot box. As to Wisconsin and what effect that may have on Pennsylvania, sort of the first part of your question, Elaine, the Wisconsin case is materially quite different than our case in Pennsylvania. In the Wisconsin case, a federal court interpreted their state's law, and then the United States Supreme Court reviewed that federal court's ruling. The situation here in Pennsylvania is quite different. In Pennsylvania, we had our state's highest court, our state Supreme Court, review a matter of state law and render a final judgment on that. Some of the Republicans in the legislature are now seeking intervention by the U.S. Supreme Court. And really on that, while the specific question has not been answered by the court, there is a legal principle that governs what the U.S. Supreme Court probably should do in this case. Elaine, it's known as the Purcell principle. And what that says is that these federal courts should give great deference to state election law matters. And that deference is even more heightened the closer you get to an election. And obviously, Elaine, we're in the midst of an election right now. 2 million Pennsylvanians have already voted, and the final day to vote, Election Day, is just about 7 days from now. And so I would hope that the U.S. Supreme Court would follow the Purcell principle and allow our state court ruling to stand.
We heard the Purcell principle raised during those confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. So you have already prevailed once against the Trump campaign's challenge after that 4-4 split last week, which let that lower court decision hold. What, though, might happen? You mentioned the Purcell principle. Now you have, though, this 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court with Justice Barrett. I mean, could the court strike down your state's 3-day mail ballot extension?
Well, obviously, the United States Supreme Court can do what it wants, but you mentioned it's a 6-3 conservative court. Conservatives like to brag about how they strictly read the Constitution, strictly follow the law. If there's a strict reading of past precedent, then you would follow the Purcell principle, and the court would then defer to our laws here in the state as interpreted by our highest court, our state Supreme Court, and literally just let the people vote. Let us have an election. You know, we have faced just an unrelenting amount of litigation from this president over our vote by mail statute. And Elaine, we've gone 5-0 in cases where I believe the president was trying to silence the voice of legal eligible voters here in Pennsylvania. It's time to stop with the litigation and just let people vote. Let's have an election, and let's let those results and the will of the people speak for itself.
So Pennsylvania is not set to begin processing mail ballots until Election Day. The state's top election officials said the overwhelming majority of votes will be counted by Friday, November 6th. Are you concerned about the, quote, chaos and suspicions of impropriety, as Justice Kavanaugh wrote, if there's a close vote count that drags on?
Well, you know, I thought Justice Kavanaugh's writings were just way off and sort of, you know, detached from reality. He talked about, you know, the final results. Well, there's no final results until all of the legal eligible votes are counted. And when you have mail-in ballot states, and Pennsylvania is one of them, it takes more time to process those ballots. And for however long it takes to process that, that's how long it takes until you have a final certified result. And so I think Justice Kavanaugh was just flat out wrong. And somewhat scary the way he was parroting back some of the lines of the president. The president is the one that has really sowed doubt in our process and tried to create chaos and confusion. But Elaine, what I keep seeing on the ground here in Pennsylvania is folks just kind of tuning out the rhetoric of this president and voting. They're voting in record numbers ahead of Election Day. And seemingly, based on our registration numbers, highest they've ever been in history, you're going to have an extraordinary high number of people show up on Election Day. We need to let people vote. We need to let those votes be counted. Now, as for when the public will know the precise results, the Secretary of State is correct that we won't have final certified numbers for a few days. But what I maintain you will have, you know, in the early hours of the next morning, of Wednesday morning after the election, is you'll have a pretty good picture of what Pennsylvania looks like. You'll have nearly all the precinct totals in. You'll have a full breakdown of where those outstanding mail-in ballots are and which party registration they are. And while not every Republican will vote for Donald Trump and Democrat vote for Joe Biden, you'll be able to have a pretty good sense of the direction that our statewide races are going, I think, by Wednesday morning.
On another topic, you are speaking with us from Philadelphia, where yesterday police shot and killed 27-year-old Walter Wallace, who they say was waving a knife. And this led, as you know, to protests during the night. At one point, an officer was run over by a pickup truck. You are the Commonwealth's chief law enforcement officer. I wonder what your messages are to both the police and to the protesters.
Yeah, Elaine, look, this is a tragic situation with the loss of Walter Wallace, Jr. There are obviously many questions surrounding this incident. Questions that I should note for the record are being answered by local law enforcement who are handling this investigation. My office is not handling it. But I will say in response to your question, my message is that we need to create space in Philadelphia right now for peaceful protest, for voices that are righteous that want to take to the streets and be heard, for them to be heard. At the same time, they have to be heard in a peaceful manner. And we're not going to tolerate, and we shouldn't tolerate, violence in our communities. Looting is not peaceful protest, and we should not have that. What we need right now are swift and solid answers to these many questions. And those answers need to be given to the community and to law enforcement, and of course to the Wallace family.
I know it's very early on yet, but is there any reason to think that you or your office may get involved as the investigation proceeds?
Well, under state law, my office would be brought in if a district attorney referred the case to us. That has not happened. This case is being investigated and handled by Philadelphia Police and the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office.
All right, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro. Mr. Attorney General, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Good to be with you.